Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel here on YouTube, where I've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 44, episode 3. That's right, I'm back. And with me today, as you can see, I've got a very special guest. We've got Mike Turner from Survivor 42. Mike, how are you doing?
Very good, Chris. How's that? I'm actually very excited to be here. New Zealand, I got to tell you, it's a big time difference. It's on my bucket list. One of my bucket list items is to come out to New Zealand. But
well,
I'm very
you know
excited
what?
to be here.
You're going to absolutely love it when you do come to New Zealand. The people here are super friendly, and there are a lot of Survivor super fans who live in New Zealand. You wouldn't believe it. Did you know that Survivor pretty much, I think it gets broadcasted to over 50 countries, Mike?
I didn't know that many countries. So you know what the funny thing is? Before I came on the show, it was a Survivor player, I was a big fan. But I thought I was a huge fan. But I just love watching. Survivor. I didn't realize it was an entire subculture with Survivor, and fans all over the world, and the orgs and all that. And now that I'm a player, I'm being exposed to all that. And quite frankly, it's an amazing community. It's so much more than I ever expected, and I'm actually very humbled to be a part of it.
I think, Survivor is one of those things you get out of it what you sort of want. There's the certain pocket of people that are going to be super negative, and there's going to be negative comments out there. But I do feel like that's a small vocal minority when it comes to it. But then the majority of Survivor fans, it's similar to myself. I started this podcast about 2 years ago. Prior to that, I was a Survivor fan that was in the closet. I never came out and said I was a Survivor fan openly because my family and my friends, nobody really watched it. And now I've got thousands of people that listen to the podcast, that reach out to me. And I do feel like in some small way, I'm also now part of this big family, this big community, Mike.
Yeah, that's very true. You're funny. You said that like you felt like you were a closet Survivor fan. And I think so was I, because I've been watching since the very beginning. And in the beginning, it was when it was a really huge show. You would talk about it at work and everything. But then it kind of died off in the sense that people just didn't talk about it as much. They still were fans. And when I was cast and they showed that first commercial of me being on season 42, people that I'm friends with my whole life were coming, oh my God, we're huge Survivor fans. We can't believe you're on. And I'm like, I didn't even know you watched Survivor. And
that's crazy.
There are so many people out there that watch Survivor kind of in the closet where they don't talk about it anymore, which honestly, it's a great world. And you know what? It's a bigger world than we all think it is.
Yeah, it's kind of like a guilty pleasure for some people. I did want to ask you, and you've probably been asked this question a million times, and if you have, I apologize. But, Tom Westman, obviously also from New York, also somebody that won the show. A lot of people see him as one of the greatest winners to ever play the game, by the way. Have you ever crossed paths with him before? Did you know about him? Is he like a little bit of a legend when it comes to the firemen and women out there in New York?
Well, for me personally, he's a legend because I think, like you just said, he played one of the best games of all time. If you watch his season, he literally made no mistakes. He went through the whole season riding the top and did it so well. Absolutely easily one of the best seasons I've ever seen in Survivor.
Yeah. Jay, welcome in the live as well, as first person here in the live saying hello. No, definitely one of the best players, in my opinion. Obviously, Heroes vs. Villains, he came in with such a big reputation. And
yes.
I've heard over the years now that, he was obviously a responder in 9/11. And due to that, he's had some complications. So he couldn't come back at Winners of War. But I felt like, he was somebody we really missed on Winners of War. Now, you're a day one fan like me, Mike. Who else do you think outside of... Who else outside of Tom do you reckon they should have definitely had out there playing in Winners at War? Is it the obvious Richard Hatch, or is there someone else that you believe should have been out there playing the game?
Yeah, Richard. You know what? I honestly think Winners at War was perfect. I think they had the right people out there, the right mixture, and they always talk about the puzzle, all the puzzle parts fitting properly. And I think that they had the perfect mix for that season. Tom Weissman would have been great to have out there, but. Other than that, I think they really had a good mixture. It was a good season. It's one of my favorite seasons. As a matter of fact, that's the season I was watching where it said, you know what? I got to try out for Survivor. That was the catalyst. Watching that season right before COVID hit.
Yeah, so you're a day one fan. You watch Winners at War. It's like the end of an era because all these legends come back to play the game. And then you're in the very first group of players that go out there to play the show after it. What was the pressure like for you knowing that you're following on from such a big season and then finding out that it's kind of a new game now that you're out there?
Well, going out there, it was very surreal. I mean, you think about Survivor and what you think about it, it's a legendary game. It's a legendary TV show. It's iconic. And then you get cast in this show that's one of the most, again, iconic shows in the history of TV. You almost don't believe it's real. So when you go out there and you go through the motions of playing the game, it doesn't really hit you until you get back and then you start seeing the commercials on TV. You start seeing the episodes there. So it's almost surreal. You almost don't believe you're on Survivor until after the fact. But again, it's one of those crazy things that happened to you in life. I was 57 years old when I went out there. And, at that age, you're kind of thinking, I was a retired fireman, and you're thinking, okay, I'm on the back nine of my life. Here's where I coast a little bit and relax, get the home stretch. And then this crazy thing, Survivor, comes along, and it catapults the direction of my life into a whole new direction that has been quite frankly phenomenal.
Well, it's interesting because when you played the season, it kind of ties into a few things I've seen online this week on Twitter, Reddit. People are talking about this new format. They're talking about the fact that we've now had 3 women in a row go. Obviously, Bruce got injured. And they're saying that the new format of the show, the 6-person tribes, really don't benefit females in the game at the moment because they're leaving so early. And we've seen it now for 2 seasons in a row. What is it like being in such a small tribe? And what is those basic things that happen in the beginning? Because I feel like there is this false perception out there that the men will always stick together and potentially vote out the women in the game. Can you talk us through a little bit of your own experience being out there?
Well, again, every experience is different, but my experience, we never ever felt that we had to get a woman out. The men never really stuck together. Subconsciously, could it have happened? Yes. I don't think so. I was looking to make bonds with anybody out there, no matter what they were. And
you were close to Jenny, right? From
my
memory.
First alliance, I was going to say, it was Jenny, who's a female, and I wanted to go to the end with her. I thought she's one of my closest friends in real life now, even. Like, we knew right away that we connected, we hit it off, and we'd be friends forever. So I don't know. I don't think in my season that anybody went out there and targeted anybody for anything other than they were a good player and we need to get them out, or they weren't doing what they should have been doing out there, and we need to take them out. But I will say this. I think the six-person tribes hurt a lot of people because there's nowhere to hide. If you go into tribal, and with all the advantages that are out there now, lose a vote, the beware advantage, the knowledge is power, that you can't hide, and you can have what happened to Jenny. You can be voted out through no fault of your own. Survivor is not only a game of skill. You got to have some luck to get to the end. You have to fit the right pieces. You think about the game in my season. Jackson went out the first day. He's gone. If he doesn't go out, say he doesn't get medevac because he's sick, we have a double elimination in the first in the first immunity challenge, and somebody from my tribe, Vadi, goes home. It could have been High. It could have been somebody else. It wouldn't have been Jenny. And the whole game the trajectory of the game goes in a different direction. With a 6-person tribe, that's what happens. If you have bigger tribes, you can hide a little better, and maybe those things don't have as much of an effect.
As a player, if you were to go out there and play the game again, I know you'd play any format. You'd never think that you're big enough that you can dictate to Jeff Probst what he needs to do out there. But if you could choose, if you were given the opportunity to choose playing in a bigger tribe, maybe a tribe of 8 or a tribe of 10, what would be the ideal place for you to start in? Do you like the 6-person tribe makeup for yourself as a player, or do you prefer having a little bit more, cannon fodder in front of you that could potentially be taken out along the way as you maneuver?
Before I went out there, I would have probably said I would love a 10, two tribes, 10 people on each tribe, bigger numbers, more places for you to lay low and hide. Because a person that's like me, that's a type A personality who looks aggressive, may not have time on a small tribe to let them know who you are. And one day, people just by the way you look can determine they don't want you out there in a 6-person tribe. So it was fortunate that we didn't go to tribal until day 7. So people got to know me, knew that I was a hard worker, that I wasn't the kind of guy who was going to dictate and be a father figure out there in terms of me saying, you do this, you do that, you have to do this. I never did that out there because I knew that was the death tell no for me if I went out there and acted as if I was their father as opposed to a person as part of the team. Every day I preach we're a we team, not a me team. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us together. Whoever works, good for them. I never once, no matter how hard I worked, looked at anybody else as if they weren't working because I also knew that would create friction. For me, for my look, I felt it was better that I was more of a person who was trying to pull people into my circle in a hug way as opposed to grabbing them and squeezing them and saying, you have to listen.
And listen, you read that situation really well. You were very self-aware going into the game. I found it interesting that you and Jonathan had that same journey on the show, and then you ended up becoming great friends in real life. I always see you hanging out after the show now as well. And did you see a little bit of a younger you and Jonathan when you were out there?
Yeah, because believe it or not, like, again, I was older when I got out there, so I'm much smaller. I used to be, when I was 25, I weighed, 230 pounds. I was a pretty big guy. I was like Jonathan, and I was pretty athletic at the time. I was a sport. I played a lot of sports. So people judge you. You never get a second chance to make the first impression. So when people see you, they automatically, unintentionally even, already have a judgment as to who you're going to be. And then it's up to you how the rest of that goes. You either fulfill what they believe you're going to be, whether it's good or bad, or you change the trajectory of what they think. And I always felt I am not the softest looking guy. So when people see me, they automatically think he's going to be a troublemaker. He wants to start fights. He's a bully, whatever. So when I was younger, I learned very quickly that I needed to act a certain way and consciously did that, which later became instinctual. And that's the person who I am, because I didn't want people to think that I was somebody that I wasn't. That really bothered me. So I saw that in Jonathan, because Jonathan has a specific look to him, and it may not be an aggressive look, but he had the dreadlocks in. He dresses, hippie-ish. He has all the rings on, and he's a huge guy. So people look at him and already want to believe he's something that they want to believe he is. And so I get that Jonathan goes where he gets judged before anybody knows who he is. So yeah, we had that common bond, and that's what catapulted me and him into being very close and trusting each other. And then now we're best friends. We're very, very close.
That's really cool. That's really cool, because I'm a big Jonathan fan as well. I really enjoyed him in that season, and I like that you guys have kept that friendship going. I think the people that impress me the most are the ones that I misjudge when I see the preseason, 30-second video clip of them. And when I saw Jonathan's video clip, I thought to myself, I feel like he's going to be this really macho, cocky type of guy going out there, think he's very capable. And then I was so wrong when the season played out, and I saw that he was actually very considerate. He was actually really, I feel like, socially intelligent in how he played the game as well. And those are the people that make an impression on me the most, Mike. Before you talk about Jonathan a little bit further, because I can see you've got something in your mind there. We've got a few people in the live that have left some comments, so I just want to bring it up. Tom McPherson is saying, so good to see Mike. Christian Gell, all the way from Canada in here. He's saying hello to both of us. And we've got Jay. Jay is here as well. Gabe, what do you think of the players not having a choice to lose their votes and it's forced on them now? So, yeah, that's a good question, actually, from Gabe. What do you think of the whole new twist where if you go to the no-name island, they're automatically forced to take a no vote when they go out there?
I'm not a fan of it, because I always think that as a Survivor player, you should have a choice to do something. And that's what makes it much more interesting. You have, the devil on one side, the angel on the other side telling you, take the vote, don't take the vote. Now you don't have a choice. I think it's always interesting when you make the decision for yourself, and then you have only one person to blame if you don't have a vote or if something goes wrong. And when they make you take that, then the consolation isn't as severe, because you could say there was nothing I could do about it. So no, I don't like that they pick it.
I'm with you on that. I don't like it. I think that the players need to have more choice. It should be risk or reward. And I don't like the fact that they don't have the choice. I know they're trying to evolve the game. Jeff has got a really good podcast where he explains his, thought process going into the season now, which is one of the podcasts I do listen to. And they're constantly trying to evolve it and keep the players guessing. But I don't like the fact that there is no consequence to the two people that are there with you and you're having this conversation. Now you don't have to read them. You don't have to choose between risking or not risking the vote. I like the previous mechanic a little bit more in the game personally, but they're going to continue to evolve it. Obviously, the other really big twist this season is the bird cage. And that comes
Yes.
back in this episode as well. You know, with the birdcage, we have Danny. Somebody already here in the live said they think that Danny would probably be your winner pick. I'm assuming you're staying true to the firemen being out there.
Hell yeah, loyalty runs deep in the fire department. And you know, and seriously, even if Danny wasn't a fireman, I love him out there. I think he's funny. I think he has a lot of great attributes in the winner. He's intelligent. He's a little zany. He brings levity to the tribe. So listen, people don't realize comedy goes a long way on Survivor. When you're out there and you're hungry and you're miserable and you're not sleeping and you're cold and you have somebody out there making you laugh a little bit, doing zany stuff, that's a very, very big factor, because the likability factor plays a long way. And especially if you being that way makes people think you're not as strategic as you really are, people want to keep you around. And that's and honestly, that was one of my things out there. I love bringing a comedic aspect out there, making jokes, having fun, keeping everything light, just so, quite frankly, so we're not as miserable. But the other factor is, you know, strategically, when you endear yourself to people in that way, they want you to keep running, even if it's not purposely. Subconsciously, they don't want you to go.
Yeah. And I mean, Danny seems to consistently be a couple of steps ahead of his tribe at the moment, because he went out there looking for the key. He got it. He got the idol without anybody noticing. They're all thinking he's just running around burning off some energy instead of actually looking for an idol, which is crazy that they're not suspecting it. Did you find it a bit strange?
Yeah, you know what? I think they think he's a little nutty, which is great. Like, he's a little zany, so they think he's going out there, you know, climbing trees. And you know what? I listen to players talk to him and talk about when he's not around, and you could tell that they like him and he brings good energy to the tribe, and that he's doing things that is helping the tribe. You know, going out there, getting wood, climbing trees, looking for breadfruit, doing all the things that you want in somebody in your tribe to do, especially if you don't want to do it.
Yeah,
and that's what
I mean, and he successfully, you know, pulls off, I think, the twist in the way that the producers designed for it to be pulled off, which is, you know,
100%.
replanting the key, getting someone else to get the fake idol out there. There's a lot of people very 50-50 on the fact that production is now planting fake idols into the game. They believe that it's gonna. Let me tell you the counter argument to it right now. They think that if the fake idols are in the game right now, people will never know if they can trust if there is a real idol out there or not, which will make players scared of potentially playing it in certain situations when they're out there. So it becomes a little bit of a, you know, a catch-22 situation. Fool me once, you know, shame on me. Fool me twice.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this: when you're out there and you think you have an idol, and it's you think you have an idol, you're not in any way not going to take it, and you're going to try it out. But the thing that I think that hurts a little bit, it's going to stop people from making fake idols and creating another strategic part of the game that was always out there go away. I think now people saying we have fake idols, we don't need to make our own fake idols, and that, I think that's how it's going to hurt the game. But I do think it's an amazing twist. I really like the bird cage. I love that.
I like it.
The key. I love that they have a fake one in there so you can leave it behind, or do whatever you want. Re-hide it. Do whatever you want with it. Now, when you were talking about Danny, here's where I thought Danny didn't play his best part of the game. Is he makes a great move. He rehides. He puts the fake idol back in there. He hides the key in. Matt finds everything. And that was enough. He's already said he's not. But then I think Danny said, you know what? Let me play a little harder. And I think that hurts people in the game. I think when you try and play too hard, you get outed. People notice. People don't want you to play hard. You got to play a hard game without people know you're playing hard. He already had everything set into motion, and then he went and started, you know, right in front of other people saying to Matt, hey, I saw what you put in your pocket. And he's like, oh, my God. And start telling other people that. You almost put a target on yourself when you do that, because people are going to say, if you're going to do that to them, you're going to do it to me. He's not trustable. You got to watch out for him. It gets crazy. He did enough. He should just laid low and let his plan take its time to mature and work out. That's what I think.
It's interesting because it's also so risky to get someone, to find this idol in a tribe of 6, where suddenly that means only 5 people now eligible potentially to go home. This is a very publicly known idol that a lot of people are now aware of in the game. So the chances are high that Matt could play it at that first tribal council. He already doesn't have a vote. So he almost become a non-option, which could mean that target could shift somewhere else. And Jake, welcome to the podcast. Jake, coming into this, we had Matt as potentially one of the targets in that tribe as well, and this potentially saved them in this spot, right?
Definitely. I think that it's going to leave a target on him in the long term for sure, but for the short term, I mean, there's really no point for them to risk trying to take him out if he can just nullify all the votes.
Yeah. So, Mike, Jake, my co-host, it's absolutely my fault that Jake is late to this because I got the time zones wrong. Jake's over in Arizona.
Life is good, man. You're in Arizona?
Yeah.
Nice. It's warm over there.
It's been real. I love the winters here, man. But it's starting to get hot again, and I'm just dreading it.
Oh, I love the heat.
Not me, man. I think that if I were to have grown up somewhere else, I really would have liked it. But since I've been here my whole life and it's all I've known, I'm tired of it.
I get it. That's why I love it. We get different seasons, but I love it.
Yeah, you get proper snowy weather and proper heat throughout the year, right? Depending on if it's summer or winter over there in New Jersey.
Yes, we do have the 4 seasons, but lately they're all mixed up a little bit. Like we had nice weather in January, now we're in March and it's freezing, and it snowed for the first time in March.
Yeah. So on the point of weather, while we bring that up, we're at the home watching the show. It feels like the Fijian weather has been pretty kind to the last couple of seasons, the players that have been out there. I feel like they on purpose don't show the rainy, miserable times when you're out there on the island. Can you talk us a little bit through what the weather is like for people playing? I think this specific group would be on the same cycle as yourself. They're the second season, so they probably filmed around the same time of the year.
It's horrible. And I'm not even saying that in a funny way. The weather is horrible. You go from 85 to 90 degree days, that's very humid, and then you get the rain, and then at night it goes down to like 40 degrees, and there's nothing worse than not having anything dry and it's raining on you and it's 40 degrees out. Some of the coldest nights of my life, actually the coldest nights of my life were spent in Fiji, and there's nobody that felt any different. We had some really rough weather on 42. I would say out of the 26 days I was out there, 10 to 12 were rainy and cold. So half the time almost we were out there, it was cold. They don't show it as much as they used to. They showed it on one immunity challenge where everybody was really, really cold. But I made it a point when I was out there, I would not show that I was cold, that I was hurting, because I felt at my age, if I showed any weakness, it would hurt me in the game. So I made sure to act like I'm fine, no matter what was going on.
The reason I bring it up is because we've been hearing very similar things from the Australian Survivor season that's playing currently, and that they're not really showing how bad it gets in Samoa. And I always remember the Russell Hahn scene of everybody freezing and him being out there saying, "This makes me stronger," while the rest of the tribe is struggling, sitting in camp shivering, right?
Yeah, and in a crazy way, that's how I felt. We on our season 42, our tribe Vadi, we didn't eat for the first 12 days. We just had nothing because our island barely had coconuts, where some of the other islands had more food. We were a very beautiful island and very easy to have access to it, but we had no food. And I remember saying to myself, okay, this sucks, but I also felt me being older and being around a little longer, I was able to handle not eating more than the younger players on my tribe. And so I kind of was like, this is fine. We'll go along with this, because I saw that the younger people were having a harder time handling not eating. And I always thought that was an advantage to me, that I could suffer better than the other people.
Yeah. Christian Gull is in the live giving very high compliment here for Danny, saying that he's like Tony Vlachos and Tom Westman in his gameplay. So we spoke about both of them, Mike, before we went live, when we spoke about our own favorite Survivor players, and Tony got brought up as both our number ones. Can you see the similarities? I could definitely see the high energy and the fact that he likes to hunt for idols, but I think there's a subtle aspect to Tony's game that a lot of people misses out on.
I agree. And listen, they're on like day 7, I think. It's a little early to compare Danny or anybody on day 7 to Tony or Tom Westman. Let's wait a little while longer. Let's see what history does, because, the truth is, sometimes when a flame burns really fast, it also fizzles out quick. So let's see what happens first.
It's a high risk game plan, and it's only I feel like
Yes.
Tony is the only person who's ever won the game as almost that high energy archetype, you know, and someone that plays a very bombastic game. Like we haven't seen a Kage Yan game in a very long time. Tony didn't even play a Kage Yan game in Winners at War when he won again.
Yeah,
he had to adapt.
His second time out, he was out. I think he was second out. He tried to go high energy, and he was taken out right away.
Yeah. So interesting comment here from Tara. She says, Tara, welcome to the live. She says, in an exit interview, Claire suspected it was fake, and that's the idol, because of her bench chat with Matthew. Probably others know it's fake too. So that's interesting because we always hear these little bits of tidbits of information that's coming out. You know, when this type of information comes out on the island, Mike, how quickly does it spread around? How quickly do you know of other people's advantages or these bits of information in the game? Because obviously for us as viewers, we're sometimes privy to things that the players out there don't know.
Well, it happens as quickly as good as your alliance is with people and as good as your social game. If you're out there and you're a very social person and people like you, people tell you stuff. If you don't have a good social game and you don't have a good alliance, people don't tell you anything. You're the last to know. So I think it varies between season to season and person to person, depending on how well their social game is. If you get everybody that, you know, likes you, and that's simple as that. If they like you, they want to give you information. It's a strange thing. People want to tell you how much they know. They can't help it. So all you have to do is, you know, buddy up to them, be friendly with them, be social with them, and they want to tell you how much they know.
Because it also is a way for them to sell their own resume, right, in the game, because they're like, oh, I'm the one that's got all this information, so you need to take note of this. And also it's a currency. I give you a little bit so you can give me a favor in the future. Yes,
I just think, you know, but I also think in this new era of Survivor, everyone wants to prove what a big Survivor fan and what a great player they can be. And they wind up doing too much. I think it's better that you keep stuff to yourself, you know, even if you can't see it when the game is shown on TV, because that's how you last. You know, I think some of the better players laid low. You know, I always say if a snake sticks its head out too far, it's going to get chopped off. And in Survivor, you can't stick your neck out too far. And when you do stuff like that, that's what happens. You get people notice. People notice really quickly out there who's trying to be strategic, who's just they don't think there's anything going on. And that's what you want. You want people to think you have nothing going on. You're just out there for the experience. You're trying to make, you know, connections with people. You don't want to, you know, say, hey, I got a great strategic idea. Hey, did you know this person has that? You know, because that's when people notice that you're playing the game. And I did make that mistake a couple of times, and it burnt me.
Yeah. Jake, I wanted to move on to the beginning of this episode because it's quite interesting. Sarah, she's blindsided here in the first, you know, tribal council that she goes to, and her closest allies voted out. She goes back and she hides the fact that she's upset. How did you feel like Carson handled the situation and betraying her and the conversations that were happening between this tribe? Because the Tika tribe seems to be one of those tribes that have, at the moment, 3 core people that are very close, but Sarah seems to be a vote up for hire potentially in the future of the game. Is that how you're seeing it play out? And how do you think that, you know, I guess both parties handled this very awkward situation with Sarah being out on the vote?
Yeah, I think that you're right. It was absolutely awkward when there's only one person that's left out, especially in such a small tribe. I think that Sarah played it pretty much as well as you can, just like show no, you know, being upset. She was like, yeah, I get it as a game. Carson, maybe I wasn't either paying attention enough or they kind of weren't showing everything, because to me it seemed like he just kind of is like, yeah, I'm sorry. So anyways, so we're good. You know, and I was like, I think you might need to do a bit more than that, man. I mean, knowing me personally, I would try to play it like Sarah did and just show, like, keep a straight face. You know,
that's
but
exactly how you have to play it.
I would be so upset, especially because, I mean, it seemed like Carson was like, you, me, and Helen for life, baby. Like, it was like they were going in hard on that first episode. So,
and you know, I kind of had the same thing happen to me with Jenny. Me and Jenny were extremely close, and Daniel and Chanel. Obviously, we're playing both sides. And Jenny gets voted out, and I'm like, I'm going back to camp thinking I'm at the bottom. And I got to show like I'm not mad, I'm not upset, even though I did show some emotions towards Daniel, but I did that on purpose because I wanted Hy to see that I wasn't with them. And it worked out because Hy then approached me and said, hey, I'm so sorry. And that's when we made our alliance to moving forward. But, you know, when your bestie gets voted out that early, it definitely puts a crimp in your plans. It makes you question yourself if your game is good. It questions yourself if what's going to happen going forward. Am I making the right moves? Did I pick the wrong person? Did I ride the wrong alliance? Can I not read people? Because obviously Daniel and Chanel were not who I thought they were out there. So it's good in a way because you get the slap in the face to wake you up to what the game is. But it also hurts you because now you know on the bottom and you have to tread water until you can gain some traction. But believe me, a lot of things happen in 12 hours on Survivor. So you could be on the bottom 12 today, 12 hours later, you're riding the best alliance in the game. It's a crazy thing.
The only thing that I noticed that I was wondering about, and I'd like to pick your brain on this, Mike, as someone that's been out there, you know, Sarah didn't say anything in regards to the advantage that she's holding on to, and no one's aware that she's got that inheritance advantage at the moment. Do you think there is a way that she could leverage that in the game and say, listen, I've got some firepower. If we go to a merge and someone's got an idol, we know about it. This is something we could use for our alliance. I don't normally like sharing advantages, but if you're at the bottom and you know you're probably the next one out if you know they go to tribal council, do you think that's maybe an opportunity for her to try and see if she can leverage that advantage? Because it's better to try and leverage it right than go home with it in your pocket at this stage.
Agree. Listen, I think you can leverage everything on Survivor. You can leverage your vote. You can leverage an advantage. You can leverage an alliance. Everything in the game is something that you can leverage. Whether even being good at, you know, fishing. I'll catch fish so we can eat. That's the leverage. And sometimes you don't have to even say it, but it is. But yes, that inheritance advantage can absolutely be used in some way to give her leverage where she can search out who else is at the bottom. Say, listen, right now you're 3 and 4. How about this? We have this inheritance advantage. We become 1, 2, and 3 if we, in a small tribe, take somebody out with a surprise vote, a blind side.
Now, I'm going to be at risk here of prejudging you, Mike, and it's not like that hasn't happened in your life with you before. We just spoke about the whole thing where you said, you know, I don't like people judging me. I'm not, you know, you can't judge a book by its cover all the time. But I'm going to go to Jake first, and then if you've got something to add to this, feel free to add later on. But yes. Jake, you know, I feel like you're maybe somebody that would understand this a little bit more. We see a really fun scene with Kane here in this episode talking about RPG, role-playing games, and going around with a sword saying he's played Dungeons and Dragons and things like that. How likable is... Hey, listen, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons myself. I've got friends who love it. Yeah. I've never gotten into it, but I may have played the odd role-playing game here and there online on a computer.
You know, I like those as well. So
yeah, so you know, has Kane just become our favorite player this season, Jake? Is this who we're rooting for now? Go Canada!
I'm moving to Canada now, of course, to show my solidarity. No, that scene was great. I mean, because I felt like this episode, you guys may have already touched on this before I joined, so I apologize if I'm treading over the same things. But I felt like this episode, they really went outside the game and showed some really fun scenes, on every tribe, not just you know, they'll throw in usually one little cute scene on one tribe, but it seemed like this episode they had multiple things, like Kane with the sword, doing little sword tricks. On that same tribe, Jamie and everybody weirdly obsessing over worms and eating the worms. I thought it was great. And to answer your question, yes, Kane is who we have to be rooting for now, just by law, but just by the fact that he plays RPGs, we have to.
Well, and so let me set the record straight. I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons in high school. Me and my friends played all the time. Every Friday night when we meet, I played football, but I hung out with the nerds. And nerds are still my best friends. We still get together at least twice a year, hang out, and we do play role-playing games. So I love that scene too. I also love the movie Role Model, where one of the main aspects of the game is role-playing in the real world in medieval times. So I did love Kane. I love that scene. And I think Jeff even loved it because he made a comment about the sword. This sword seems like it's seen a lot of action.
Yeah, he could have fitted quite back into the shield. But I was
Yeah.
going to say, as much as I love the scene, I kind of hate the Survivor producers for doing this to us this episode, because they're all getting us behind Kane. So we know that when Kane does eventually get blindsided, it's going to hurt that much more when he does get voted out of the game. So I hope he does find a way, because he's also in a very precarious spot right now after having gone up against Brandon. And he does look like he's making some inroads though, Mike, because you mentioned, being that fun person at camp, the one that brings a bit of comedy and lightheartedness to the game. It does seem like he is sort of bringing that element to his tribe, and his tribe is really sort of rallying behind him.
Absolutely. People want to work with you. People want to work with you because you know what? When you're likable and you're funny, it also makes you trustable. People trust people like that. It just brings it out of them. They want to work with you. They want to be friends with you. It's a crazy thing out there, and time is so different in the game as it is in real life. Like I said, 12 hours is like a week out there. And it's a crazy. So you're out there for a couple hours and having fun. You're trying to make connections. You're trying to find people that are like you. And let's face it, all of us are like Kane inside. Kane just may show it a little more on the outside. So we want to hang out with Kane because we don't want to admit it. Don't we all play role playing games in our life, in just real life? We all play them, whether we go to different places. We all role play. Kane just shows it a little different. I think people like that.
Yeah, definitely. Very, very popular player here at this point. I'm definitely behind him. Okay, Jake, you go.
I think that, like you said, it kind of like eases the tension. Like when you know that you can kind of joke around with somebody, because I know for me out there, I'm sure everybody else is like this too. I mean, I'd be stressing 24/7, just like paranoia, like,
yeah, who's coming for me?
Somebody following me, it's just having a one-on-one conversation. Is somebody watching us right now? Somebody listening in? Is Tony in a spy nest?
Spy shack.
Yeah,
he's down in the spy submarine with a little bamboo.
Submarine in the water, fishing. So just having that person that can kind of like take you out of the game, or even when you're just having game talk to.
Or even for jury management, right? Because I feel like you'd rather have good people go to the merge where you feel like this person, like Kane, handled being outside of the votes or getting caught out really well. So he doesn't look like a guy that's going to be bitter or someone that potentially is going to hurt your chances. I don't know how much thinking goes into that, Mike, when you're voting people out of the game, but yeah.
That's a good point. And quite frankly, I wish I thought of that more. I'm not sure people think about it that early in the game because you're in the moment. But it's definitely something that I will always think about going back in. I would rather, if I could pick some of the jury members that were on my season, I would definitely have voted in a different way.
Would you have swapped Chanel and Daniel potentially? Because it feels like they were the two, and then Daniel seems like he was there for the experience. Yeah.
That's one of the biggest swaps I would have did, because I would have been a different jury had Daniel going in instead of Chanel. Chanel and me never, in the game, we're very good friends now, but in the game, we were always butting heads. Always. She's one of the people that I just, not that I couldn't connect with, I didn't trust, and she didn't trust me, and she was undermining my game. And quite frankly, I went after her hard. So I made a deal with High that we'd get Chanel next, and because I wanted Chanel first and leave Daniel. And because of the position I was in that alliance, which I was last, that I couldn't push my feelings hard enough. So I settled for Chanel staying and Daniel going home. In retrospect, I shouldn't have settled. It would have put definitely a different context as to what the jury was going to be like.
Yeah, I just want to bring up a few more comments here in the live as well. People have been commenting away. Flynn Masters, a fellow YouTube content creator, does some Survivor content and also Master Chef. A lot of Master Chefs. If you ever want to learn anything about cooking, Mike, that's the channel you want to check out. Says, damn, these Survivor 42 guests you've been getting. We've also got a Survivor 41 guest and a Survivor 43 guest lineup. So we will be adding to the current list of guests. And Mike, you're officially the second Survivor CBS player we've had on the channel. Omar was the first. He beat you to it.
Oh my, who was the first?
So Omar, he from your season.
I love Omar. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was the first from your season. We've had plenty of Survivor Australian players and Survivor South African players on the show so far, but we're hoping to add more and more people from Survivor CBS as well, because it really is, myself and Jake, we love to talk about the show. We love to, we try and be as, fair as we can be, because we know we're watching an edited TV show, but it's so great when we have people on the show that have actually, been out there and that have experienced all of this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, speaking of Omar, he played one of the best games I've ever seen, and he was stealthed out there. Nobody knew he was playing the game he was playing, and kudos. I think, in my opinion, he played the best strategic game of our season.
Yeah. I had Omar as I think he's the best new age player. I know most people think it's Jesse because, it's recency bias. I think it's Omar as well, personally. Yeah.
I thought played the best. And I mean that because even the players didn't know what he was doing.
Yeah, we've got another question coming in here. Okay. I don't know if you could answer this or not, but B4 Danny Cab says, I always wanted to know about how many Survivor contestants are scouts. As a scout leader and a parent of 2 Eagle Scouts, I always feel like scouts would do well on Survivor with the outdoor skills. And I think that's because you mentioned the leveraging of catching fish, for instance, out there, right?
Yes. Listen, I don't know how many Survivor players were scouts, but I absolutely think being in the scouts prepares you for living out in the Survivor world. And in many ways, just even in terms of leadership, in terms of camaraderie, in terms of hunting, in terms of scavenging, learning the different aspects of the plants. Yeah, I think it's, but where I come from, I think everybody was a scout at one time or another, even if they just tried it out. So I think a lot of, especially older people, were scouts in some way.
Yeah. Tyra saying here, and this is an interesting one, it leads into the next part I wanted to talk about for this episode, says, Jamie won me over this episode too. I love her house plant. Such a great episode, sort of explaining to us a little bit more about Jamie, her personality. She's very high energy, but you've got the plant mama and the plant daddy out there, and the plant daddy gets one over her. Jake, how good was the editing? Once again, they caught us with this whole thing where Matthew has gone out there 2 days prior to this, and they've kept it a secret, and they blindsided us, the audience, that he went and found the idol after Brandon played it and replanted the key. I love this by the Survivor production team. It kind of gives us a mini feeling for what it's like to be blindsided out on the island.
It was awesome. I mean, we got to give them props for it. I remember the first time they pulled this trick of they didn't show the scene of them finding the idol. They showed the confessional of them talking about it before the scene. And I thought it was awesome. And they've done it a few more times now, and I still love it every single time. And I think that one thing I saw on Reddit, I believe, was somebody pointed out he hit it in a perfect spot because he put it in a really muddy area, and Jamie was going on and on about worms. And obviously there's going to be more worms in the more damp spots. So I think he was specifically targeting her, which is kind of cruel. But
and he played it off so good. He seemed so surprised when she found it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's a sleeper. Like, if I had to pick someone early
draft.
Yeah, you're right. He was your winner pick in the draft as well. So we'll bring up the draft a little bit later on. I think Mike might like it. We'll explain how it works. Jake actually, I believe, picked you, Mike, in your season, and he ended up winning that season.
I remember, Chris, and I remember you, not to call you out, you were
go for it.
When I picked Mike, Mike was my third pick, I think, and you were
I was like, that's high.
Wow. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
So you prejudged me.
Yeah, I did. And listen, that's why Mike, I said earlier, I love the people that makes the biggest impressions on me are the ones that I look at and I'm like, no, I don't know. I'm going to put them in that box. They're the older guy. They're going to be, I thought you were going to be like a Roxroy, and you ended up being nothing like him,
Yeah, and I made sure of that. Yes. Roxroy is who he was out there, which was fantastic, to be honest with you.
We love
Roxroy. First of all, Roxroy was a great guy.
We both love him.
We both love him. He took the heat off of me. He took the heat off of me.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to be anything like that because he did, and he loved it.
Yeah, like, I
When I
mean,
saw,
I've got Roxroy. I've got Roxroy personally as probably the first or second person on any cast list for a returnee season because I
Oh,
just love the fact that he is who he is. He's genuine. He's authentic. You know, he's not like and you need characters in Survivor in my mind. Like you can't have everybody think and act exactly the same way or be too game body. And I think that Roxroy is his own archetype out there.
I agree. And Roxroy is who he is. There's no faking. And that's, to me, the best players are the people who are they are in real life. He's very authentic. And he's a great
Yeah.
guy. That's the other thing. He's a really good guy.
That's awesome. Well, he's still nowhere to be found on social media, right? He's the only one who does not want to have
we
anything to do with it.
We have a text group between 42. We barely find them on there sometimes. I'll get a random text.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, just checking how you doing. How are your Mets doing? They're sucking right now. Stuff like that.
I remember when the cast got leaked after the filming got done. He was the only one that they couldn't find a picture of.
Yeah,
They
and he
could find a
said it out
picture.
there. He said they're never
Yeah.
going to find me. I don't have any kind
Yeah.
of social media.
It's so
And we
funny.
laughed.
That's the
I
first
hope-
time it's ever happened where they couldn't find a picture. They always are somehow able to find a picture.
Yes.
Yeah, I do hope they do find him for a returnee season because I think it'd be absolutely epic to get him out there again. But I do want to go back to a little bit of this episode. There's a few things we haven't spoken about yet. You know, the Soka tribe, the Soka tribe, the Green tribe, they've got this budding romance that's happening between a certain Matt and Franny on there. Mike, tell us a little bit about, you know, what would this have been like for you being out there if you saw this? Because immediately I panicked. I have them both in my draft team, and I've got 4 players left in my draft team, and I feel so worried about that.
Listen, we've been watching Survivor for how many years? These are super fans out there. Showmances don't work in a lot of different ways. Number one, you put a target in something. Nobody wants to see a power couple, but you also risk the fact that you two can get into an argument. You might not like each other. You might just it not work out. Or worse yet, it may work out. It's never, ever, ever good. Secondly, after being out there, you know, and me seeing Showmances, watching Survivor, and then being out there, I don't understand it. Because you're out there, you're dirty, you're smelly, you're focusing on the game. Like you got to think about the game all the time. You're not looking at anybody in any other fashion other than they're a player. Because and you want them out, because if they're in, you're out. So you can't like somebody more than you like yourself out there. And you get into a show match, you're almost trying to look out for them before you look out for yourself. It's not a good atmosphere to last in the game.
Yeah, Matt's getting. I was going to say Matt.
Themselves.
Yeah, I was going to say Matt to me also is interesting because he already had a target on him. He's lost 2 votes already in the game, poor fella, and it just seems like now he's got the fake idol. Jake, is he becoming very quickly an Owen, but like I guess an Owen that is sort of speed. It's almost like he's got this momentum rolling down like a snowball that can't be stopped, rolling down a mountain at the moment. Because it's just, you know, even get the dodo music, I think, playing here.
He did get the
episode.
dodo music, but he got the girl.
He got the girl. Hey,
well,
you know, if he's still with the girl
anyway,
right now, then
we think so. But the funny thing is, he looks like he's having a ball out there. Is he ever upset? He's having a great time.
Yeah.
Think about it. He's out there. He's always laughing. He's always cheering. He's, you know, he has googly eyes for Franny. They're fooling around. They have this beautiful world going on just between them. And then you get the vote. And the person that was kind of giving them the eye, kind of look at them, Claire, gets sent home.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that because she was really the one that was like the most vocal about like, what the hell is wrong with you guys?
Exactly.
Like, get a room. And like, you know, there are a few, the other ones have made a few comments, but like, I feel like they really dialed in on Claire specifically.
Yes, the faces she was making, like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
And even talking about it. And she's right. But guess what? Matt and Franny are still there, and Claire's home.
Well, there's something else I picked up on Claire as well, which I will bring up in 1 second. But before Danny Cab says here, maybe they're gearing up for the Amazing Race couples from another reality TV show. Could be. I mean, I would like to see if you know, hopefully they win this show, one of them. Otherwise, you know, the Amazing Race is an option where they can go and compete on there. But, you know, the other thing I picked up with Claire was in the previous episode when she was saying she's the laziness czar at camp. I feel like that would really grind certain people's gears, Michael. If you were out there and you're a hard worker and you hear that type of comments being made, maybe there's more we didn't see. And like socially,
Yeah.
she kind of struggled a little bit out there.
Well, if somebody was lazy, which everybody has somebody that's lazy, I'm happy. I'm happy when I see somebody's late. I don't even get mad. I would say, aren't you getting mad? No, I'm actually happy because you know what? People notice. And as long as they notice them not doing anything, that's good for my game. That's how I always looked at that. So I never got mad. They were doing me a favor. Claire, sitting out of the immunity challenges, was doing everybody else in her tribe a favor. She's actually saying, I'm the weakest, I'll stay out. She's giving people ammunition if you have to go to a tribal as to why she shouldn't be there and why you need to get rid of it so that way your tribe can stay stronger. And then saying she's the laziest in front of everybody, just, you can never talk about yourself negatively out there because guess who believes it? Everybody. Everybody believes you because it's you saying it. Now, you're not hearing it from somebody where you say, are they just trying to start trouble? You hear from the person's mouth and they're talking about themselves. Guess what? I got to believe you, even if you think you're joking. You never do that out there.
Yeah, I feel like
somebody's head.
Yeah, I feel like she put this target on herself, and then she was. I don't know how she didn't think that it was going to blow back on her because at the tribal council she said, she could still pull her weight and do this, but at the end of the day, you can only go by like what you just said. If you hear from the horse's mouth that she's lazy, you can only go by the actions of what somebody has done in the game. That's why voting matters so much. People voting together shows you that they're honest and truthful to you more than their words. And her not competing, Jake, they were always going to go for the devil they know rather than the devil they don't because they don't know what skill set Claire has. And clearly she doesn't have confidence in herself. So how important, Jake, is it to have confidence in your ability on Survivor when you're competing in all of these different challenges?
I think confidence in challenges is vital. I mean, if you're like timid out there in a team challenge like that, then they're going to pick up on that and see like they're not confident in themselves. And to show Claire every single time, just kind of give herself up and say, "Yeah, I'll sit out."
Yeah, and even Jeff was commenting on it. And here's the truth: even if you're not confident, you got to act confident. You got to act like you're. Not once when an immunity challenge came up, did you see her fight to stay in? It's okay, I'm going, no problem.
Yeah, and it's not only like for the strategic aspect of it, but also like she's a super fan. Shouldn't she want to compete in the challenges? And
yeah, you'd have to fight me. You'd have to fight me out there. Like I would want to be in every single challenge.
I agree.
And Omer,
I don't care how bad I would think I would. I'm sorry, Jake.
Oh no, you can go ahead.
No, I'm saying no matter how bad you think you're going to be on something, you have to participate. Now think about this: Claire was voted out without ever participating in a challenge, right?
Yep.
I think because they had one person out from the start, so she never competed.
Yes. So she never competed in a challenge. Imagine you're on Survivor, you never get to compete. That's one of the iconic things of being on Survivor is to compete in a challenge.
Yeah, I was going to say last week when we had Omer on, he was saying like he was really, really scared for the challenges because he wasn't a very athletic guy, but it ends up being one of his favorite
aspects of it.
Yeah.
And so it just really sucks that she got to miss out on that.
Yeah, like Omar said to us that like he's still now the thing he misses the most is competing in the challenges. So what is it like, Mike? Yeah. What is it like, Mike, being out there? You're going in these immunity challenges. You're in these little team environments with people that you've just met a couple of days ago. Jeff is out there. You've got 1,000 cameras pointing at you while you're out there playing the game. What does it feel like when you sort of compete?
Once Jeff says, starts the challenge, you kind of forget yourself. It's like the first hit in a football game or in a make-believe soccer game. Just kidding. You forget about everything around you and you just compete. So the challenges are amazing because you're in them and you see them on TV. And if you're a fan and then you get to participate, like I said, that's why I don't understand it. It's an amazing thing. And then when you get done and if you happen to win one, I was very fortunate that I checked off a lot of bucket list items in Survivor history during my season. So it's something I don't see that how you can pass up easily to sit on the side. And I made a promise to myself going out there. I don't care how much I think I would suck at a challenge. I'm not sitting out no matter what.
Well, there is another player that's the exact opposite to Claire, and that is Matthew, because he's going at 120% in every single one of these challenges to the point where he's not listening to the doctor's orders. He keeps putting his arm, taking it out of its sling, and he kind of injures or complains about his shoulder as he's digging sand to get underneath one of those poles. Mike, do you think that this could spell bad news for Matthew at this point, because it looks like he doesn't know his own limits out there?
No, I don't think it at all. I think you get one shot at Survivor. It's balls to the wall. You give it all you got. If you get hurt, you get hurt. If you can go through, you go through. You don't ease up at all, just in case you may not make it, because that's what's going to take you out. People smell weakness. People smell when you can't. They think you can't proceed because of an injury, and that'll take you out more. You go balls to the wall.
Yeah, and he seems, Jake, to also be a bit of an A player for them, because they're putting him in all these clutch situations where he's got to climb up, get the key from the top. You know, he seems the most almost acrobatic, and it's strange to me because he's literally in the same tribe as an NFL athlete, but he's the player that everybody is going to.
That's a weird thing, right? Because in that you say that whenever you see him do a confessional, it doesn't say professional football player on the bottom. It says he's some kind of analyst, which I found very strange.
Yeah, like security something.
Right. So I can't think, did he tell anybody else out there that he was in the NFL? I don't think he has, right?
I don't think he's told anyone, no.
Yeah.
So it sounds like he had a couple of seasons, but maybe he got injured or something.
I think he played like 8 seasons. So not a couple.
Oh, wow.
He played a few seasons. Yeah, he wasn't a fly-by-night. He's a player, but he never mentions it out there, and it's not in his bio at the bottom. So I'm thinking maybe he's hiding it, which is a very smart move, not to tell them that you're in the NFL, because that definitely can hurt you in the game.
Yeah, I mean, $1 million is pocket change compared to what those guys earn in a season, right? I'm not a big on the NFL, but I'm assuming they get quite a few.
No, they pay
million
very well. But I also don't think he's your typical NFL player either. I think like he said, he's a Renaissance man. He likes to dabble in a lot of things and make himself uncomfortable in situations, and he's doing that here. So maybe he doesn't want to be known as the guy from the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks. He wants to be the guy, who's playing Survivor.
He probably gets kind of the same thing as you, where they kind of judge him from his appearance, and so if he's probably delighted that they are like, oh, you're just our challenge guy, Yes, so he's probably like, oh, I'm glad they don't, think of me that way.
Yeah, and Matt is no slouch. I think Matt's playing very well. I like Matt a lot. I think he's playing very well also.
Yeah, Matthew or Matt, because it gets confusing.
Matthew, I'm sorry, Matthew.
Matthew, that's fine. I've made that mistake a few times myself as well. I think Brandon is such an interesting character because, again, he was the person coming into the season you'd think I'd learn. I'd be like, oh, I don't know. This guy, we call it over here in Australia, New Zealand, we call him a slashy because they've done so many different things. So they're this person / that person / this person. They're kind of a jack of all trades. So it's a bit of a Australia, New Zealand slang saying that they're slashies.
I like that slang. That's a very good name for it. A slashy.
Yeah. So I look at him as like a slashy. And when I look at that, I think sometimes there's you can come across as obnoxious because you've got so much confidence and you can do so many different things. But I do think so far he's managing that really well, and he has gone out there and proven that yes, he can catch fish, he can provide for his tribe, which you mentioned earlier is something that you can leverage in the game. And I think, Mike, that the new format, like, we'll talk about Tara's comment in a second because she talks about the 3 small women that's been voted out so far. I do think it does benefit the old school alpha male in a certain way more than what some of the previous iterations of the show has benefited him in, because now you can go out there and provide, where I think that, when you had food, you had enough rice, you had a lot of rewards being given to you. Maybe the person who was a provider was less benefited from being a survivor out on the show of Survivor. Do you think that it is in the new format more important for you to be an all-rounder, to be someone that can go out and catch fish? Or does other people surprise you sometimes? Like, I feel like it must be difficult. I've never gone spearfishing myself, but I don't think I would be good at it.
I think any season it's good to be a provider. I don't know. I'm an old school kind of guy. I know it's a new school era, but I think I'm an old school guy. I've always respected the people that can go out and provide for their families, so for their tribe. And I think the way I think of it is I'm always going to keep somebody that can provide and make the tribe strong. And I've thought about this a lot of times, like, because I hear it all the time. Do you keep a tribe stronger, or do you go with loyalty? And I've always been, I got to go with the tribe, being stronger. But then again, I think about, in the beginning, if I have, a Jenny who I was very loyal to, who I trusted with everything, and maybe I get a Roxroy, and he's much physical than Jenny. I'm saying, if it's coming up to strength, I'm thinking about the strength that I need, and the strength that I need is my alliance with Jenny. So I'm contradicting myself, and I know I am, but so at the end of the day, what I think it is, whatever's beneficial to your game at that moment, and if it happens to be strength in terms of being stronger or strength in having loyalty, I think you're going to go with that.
Yeah. No, I want to bring up Tara's comment here as well, because we spoke about this earlier, Tara, but, I'll bring it back up again. She says that plus being the smallest woman out there, 3 smallest people are gone is a problem with a format and a lack of swaps. I don't think being in a challenge would have helped her. I think it wouldn't have hurt her, is what we're trying to say. It's probably not the only reason why anybody ever gets voted out is because they're not competing or they messed up on a puzzle. But I think the fact that she didn't compete, she didn't have trust in her own ability, and then maybe her social game, some of the things we mentioned there that may have got her in trouble. But, Jay, coming to you, we've had now 2 seasons in a row where quite a few of the women are getting voted out quite early on. Do you think that the format does have something to do with it? Because I saw something on Reddit where someone actually went through the statistics of prior to 3-person tribes and now with 3-person tribes, how many women get voted out before merge and how many have now been voted out. And I believe it's 55.8% of women get voted out before the merge currently. But prior to this new format, it was 55.02. So it's like very close. It's both in the 55%. So that is actually contradicting what fans believe right now.
Chris, that 0.8%, you're discounting that 0.8%. It's huge. No, I don't think the format is the issue. Unfortunately, this just happens sometimes. It just we saw it last season too. It was like the most we've ever seen. It was like 12 or 12 of the first 15 were or something. I might be botching the numbers,
but and I feel like Maddie played herself out of the game. Like she was very aggressive out of the gate. She got caught a little bit.
Also, one could argue, and I've been seeing it online quite a bit, that like maybe she was trying to get ahead of the curve. Maybe she kind of saw the pattern and was trying to get ahead of the curve and saying like, if I don't, try to get this guy out now, then they're just going to pick me off, which could argue that would have been the case. But
I want to, Mike, I know your stance on it. You don't believe that it has a big thing to do with it, and it really is just a personality thing, and different people will just get along or won't get along out there, and you're looking for loyalty and numbers. But the other part of that comment that I think is really interesting is the one about the lack of swaps. As someone that's been out there that didn't experience a tribe swap, how do you feel like, in general, you must feel like you kind of dodged the bullet a little bit, because at least for you kind of knew the people you were playing with. Were you sort of relieved not to see a swap? Do you, as what's it like as a player being out there not having a swap versus you, the viewer? What would you like as a player, and what would you like as a viewer?
As a viewer, I absolutely love the tribe swap because it creates chaos. It creates scrambling. It creates uncomfortability for the players. Being a player out there, if I'm on the bottom, which I thought after Jenny went home, at that point, I would have loved the tribe swap because, quite frankly, I want to get even with Chanel. I want to get even with Daniel. I want to get even with Hyde. I would have loved the tribe swap, and I would have been a free agent. If I'm part of the alliance that's strong, I absolutely wouldn't love a swap. So I think it's game dependent on who you are. I think all these things are, as a player, are all dependent as to where you sit all the time. If you're in the majority and you have in a tribe of 6 and you're in the 4-person alliance, you're feeling good and you don't want a tribe swap. But if you just got your best friend just got blindsided and voted out, and there's only you and you're on the bottom, you're hoping there's a tribe swap. So it's as a viewer, you always want tribe swaps. You want chaos. You want the scrambling. You want the uncomfortableness. You want the drama that comes along with it. As a player, you want it to be comfortable. Listen, it's hard enough to play the game with the people that you trust and that you still can trust them, as opposed to always having things get, wrenches thrown in your plans. And, obviously that's what Survivor does. They want to throw wrenches in everybody's plans to create a better viewing pleasure and create more chaos, which, quite frankly, I love. If I'm part of a season where I do really well, I'm like, man, we had a great season. We had all these things going on. That tribal was great with Jenny because I didn't go home. Jenny went home. it was a great tribal because it was so drama filled. But at the end of the day, when you're out there, you're like, what the hell is going on right now? I remember being out there for that tribal and saying, like, picking my words very carefully, because I knew where my standing in the tribe was very fragile, because I knew Hy wasn't with me. I knew Lydia wasn't with me. And now I just find out that I was betrayed by Daniel and Chanel, and Jenny's going home. So I had to pick what I said at that tribal very carefully to make Hy think, because I knew he was the ringleader of the other alliance, to make Hy think that I was like, hey, guys, what's going on? I can't believe this happened. Meanwhile, I knew exactly what was happening.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's a game within the game. It's the gargoyle that looks at you from the top, like Jeff said, a tribal council. And I think the gargoyle is Jeff, because you've got to be so careful of what he asks you, how you answer it, and how much you're going to give away. Now, Mike, you've watched Australian Survivor this season, and I'm going to bring it up because you've watched it. How different is what we're getting at tribal council from the Australian side? Because it seems like they're a lot more transparent and open and almost aggressive in their gameplay towards the US. Do you think it's because of the way that the hosts are asking the questions and maybe how that is set up? Why do you think we get such different tribal councils? Because I feel like in the US, most of the players are too savvy and they don't give much away to Jeff.
Yeah, I think it's because you have two different cultures. You have two different ways of living. I don't think it has anything to do with the hosts. I think obviously I love Jeff. I love the questions. I love he proves, to your point before, when he's asking questions at tribal, you got to be very careful how you answer them, because even if you don't mean something, the way you answer it, people read into it that you did, and that can create havoc. And I love Jonathan from Australian Survivor. I think he's much more very deadpan in how he acts, and I think Australian Survivor, the culture is that they play harder for the game, more from the personalities. They know how to separate. I've always said, so for me, I played survival as if we were playing poker. And I play poker with some of my best friends in the world. And there's times where I have a pair of deuces and I'm bluffing, and they may have three of a kind. And I bluff so good that bluffing is lying. I bluff so good that they go out and I beat them with a pair of deuces. And my friend is pissed at me. We just lost, a lot of money on the table. He's pissed. He may even be mad at me for a while. But at the end of the day, he respects the move. He says, damn, Mike, that was a good fucking move you made. That was amazing. You suck for doing it, but I got to respect it. I think that's the way Australian Survivor plays. I think American Survivor gets a little salty at those kind of moves now.
Yeah, it's a really good call.
Cursing.
No, it's 100% fine. I wanted to bring up this comment by Tom McPherson because it's directed at you, Mike. And Tom McPherson is someone who's been applying for Survivor in Australia. I've spoken to him a few times. And he says, hi, Mike. How did you approach making a self-tape for Survivor? I remember seeing a snippet of yours where you are singing on the roof. Do the casting directors love a dash of randomness in a self-tape?
I think what the casting producers love is authenticity. You need to be yourself. But Survivor is about storytelling, and that's what I tell everybody. So you want to make yourself a tape of where you're authentic, but you also want to separate yourself from everybody else. You don't want to have the same thing. Everybody's dressing as Jeff or acting out Survivor. You don't need to do that. You just got to be yourself. Here's the other thing that's probably the most important. 50% of Survivor is confessionals. And in those confessionals, you need to be able to talk. You need to be able to tell a story. If they feel you can tell a story, they want you. And if you're unique, they want you even more. There are people that I know that can talk about a pencil, and I'm riveted because they make it so interesting. And then I talk to people that talk about a plane crash, and I could care less about it. So you need to be a good storyteller. You need to not have any silence, make it interesting, and quite frankly, act different. My tape that I sent in was actually a mistake. I didn't know that I had to make a tape. I thought you put a tape that you had, and then I accidentally uploaded that tape and I couldn't get it off, so I just sent it in because I didn't think I'd ever get picked anyway.
Was it you singing on the roof? Was that the tape of you singing on the roof?
Yeah, I was actually cleaning some gutters out, and I was singing to my worker down below me, fooling around about my wife at the time. And it was only 32 seconds long.
Wow.
And I never said
it shows you.
I never said my name.
Was that the only time you applied for the show, or have you applied multiple times?
No, that's the only time I applied on a whim. I didn't even think anything of it. I was watching season 40, and I just said, you know what? I should try out for Survivor. My kids are grown and they're in college. I got time now. And I just filled out the application. And when I saw the application, quite frankly, it was long and I was like tired. I was like, so I did it haphazardly, finished it. Then it says upload a video. And I'm like, I'm thinking they want a video that I have on my camera roll. So I started looking for videos and I accidentally hit upload, and that video uploaded and I couldn't figure out how to get it off. So I sent it.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be for you to be out there and play the season.
Right, but it also proves one thing. You don't have to have this elaborate video sent in. All you have to do is show your personality, be a little more unique, and that's all they're looking for.
Yeah. Jake, take note as well, because I know Jake would love to get onto Survivor US as well. And
Jake, you can do it, Jake.
Yeah. We spoke about it a little bit when Marianne won. Jake, came out afterwards and said, I'm applying because, Marianne was that person. She was that fan who went out there to play, who didn't think she could get to the end and win. And I think that inspired a lot of other younger generation of Survivor fans. Like we spoke about it last week. Omar and I started watching one episode. I think I watched the merge episode. He watched the pre-merge episode of Borneo. That was both our first experiences of the show. Wow. Jake wasn't even born back then, so Jake was still a
I was in the womb at the time, 2000. Yeah.
No,
we've got a whole new generation of fans.
Absolutely, and that's what's beautiful. Well, and COVID was obviously a horrible thing for the world, but what it did do was make people, sit home and watch more TV. And Netflix had a couple of seasons of Survivor on it, and it brought a whole new generation of young kids watching Survivor. And crazy, my son was graduating college, and he told me that all these colleges are having these Survivor parties now because they're so into the show. And so I had a huge college following, which made it kind of cool in my son's eyes. Because they were very worried that I was going to embarrass them out there. Dad, don't embarrass us. Dad, what are you going to do out there? And so they were very pleasantly surprised that I did as well as I did.
No, you should honestly hold your head high. I thought you had a very dominant game. And like you said, we spoke about it before we went live, that in another season with a different jury, that could, if you played Australian Survivor, I reckon you would have probably been in a very good position to win the season. And it is just depending on who the jury is at the time.
Right. But the truth is, people wonder why I'm not bitter that I didn't win. And I'm not bitter. First of all, Marianne is a very good winner and she's a good person. But the other thing is I had a very good edit. And I think sometimes that your edit is dependent as to where you place on the show. And if I win the game, maybe I don't have that edit. Maybe they have to show something where I don't look like I can win. And I don't have the notoriety, they don't show who I am for who I really am because they don't want to give it away that I won. So I look at it both ways. And I always think that things happen for a reason. And now I can go back and play and win the next time.
Yeah, I could see you playing a season with Colby Donaldson, Dom Abate, and yourself, because you guys are all like runner-ups that I feel like could have been. And in fact, we should have runner-ups at War. I reckon that'd be a fun season.
You're right. I agree, and I think I should be on it.
I feel like runner-ups at War would be a more interesting season to watch because then winners at War, it was great. Obviously, I'm very happy with Tony winning favorite player, even going into that season. So I didn't think in 100 years he would win. But, if they had a runner-ups at War, I feel like everybody would play that much harder because everybody got to taste victory. They got to taste it was right there.
And you have to think every person that was the runner-up has to think they should have won. I mean, you play the game to think you can win, and you play the game you played, and you get that far. Like as much as I'm happy Marion, I'm not happy Marion, but that Marion won and she's deserving. I think I played a great game and I should have won.
Yeah, you should be proud of that.
You have to think so, or else
I agree.
You're almost manifesting that you're not going to win if you don't even have the confidence in yourself. So
I just thought about it. If that's a runner-ups at War season, I know some people would probably be very 50-50 on this, but I know Russell Hance have been trying to get back on the show. You've Russell, you've got Dom,
I would love to play against Russell Hance. They'd have to play against him.
They'd have to have two Russells out there since he was runner-up twice.
Well, I think he got third. No, he got third place in the other one. Parvati got runner-up for Heroes versus Villains. Okay. Yeah, but close enough. He got to the end twice. Yeah. We could have Amanda come back if they can find her. Amanda Kimmel. That'd be great because
she was runner-up twice.
Too. Yeah, she was runner-up twice. I think. Who has the most days out? Was it Amanda? Did she pass? Was it Parvati?
I think Amanda was the most days without getting voted out because she went
Yes.
3 seasons and then very deep into Heroes versus Villains before
Yeah.
she got voted out. So a very she's one of those forgotten legends of the show that did extremely well because to go deep once is impressive, but to go deep twice and even a third time, that's very hard to achieve because people
You're right.
start
She doesn't
learning
get as
what your
much
game
credit
is,
as
right?
she should get. Amanda should get more credit. She was a very, very good player.
Yeah,
She
she
had good runs every
unfortunately
time she was out there.
she unfortunately doesn't really interact with the community anymore, it seems. So I think that's
a big part of it too. But neither does, just so
Mhm.
you know, neither does Tony. Tony doesn't interact with the community either.
That's true. Between
He just
Game
comes back to
Changers-
win. He just
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
back to
that's
win
it.
and then goes again.
between Game Changers and Winners of War, he was off the grid as well. And then he comes in Team TV, and then boom, leaves again once he wins.
He's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, he lives in Jersey. Well, he's a cop in Jersey City. I'm a fireman in Hoboken, and literally it's the next town. I've never seen him
You guys
around.
are-
Never heard of him. I've never heard nothing.
So you guys are
And
rivals.
He's absolutely my favorite player of all time.
Yeah, well, I hope you get to meet him because that would be listen, I think I've never been starstruck by talking to a Survivor player. It's obviously really cool to talk because I'm a fan, it's really cool. But I think Tony would be one of those people where I would just be like, absolutely, I don't know how to even talk to him or ask him questions. And, his mind would be running at 2,000 miles per hour. I don't know if I could keep up with him in an interview, to be honest.
It's true. I agree.
Yeah, his interviews with Rob Cesternino are some
Yeah.
of the most entertaining things I've ever seen.
Yes.
Rob has to be like, Tony, okay, you stay on one thing at a time here. Like they have like a 4-hour podcast after
Yes.
Wings
The
of
deep
War.
dive.
That's nothing compared to Marianne. Marianne at what, 6 hours in her
That's
Six
podcast?
and a half hours.
True. Marianne bested him at that.
But here's the Marion went out to do it that long. Tony, it just happens.
Yeah, it's just
Right.
natural.
That's true.
I did want to ask you another question about this episode. I know we've gone off topic a little bit. A really interesting thing is starting to happen now in Survivor. I've seen it in Australia with the individual immunity, with Simon and another tribe member helping in an individual immunity, where I said the key word there is individual. But we're also seeing it in Survivor US now, where teams are copying other teams. They're making a little bit of, I guess, a point of showing it on the TV screen now. I don't know if it's happened before, if you had experience of being out there where you saw other tribes copying the tribe next to them in the puzzle part of it. And do you think that this is something that should remain, or do you think that teams should just get smarter and maybe throw the puzzle down after it's done so people can't copy it? What's your thoughts on this as someone that's been out there and that have sort of participated in it?
I think it definitely should be allowed. It's part of the game. But I also think that I can't understand why people are letting people watch. You should be out there destroying your work after it's done so that way they can't. Especially if you in your head saying, I want this particular tribe to go to tribal because, even though you're looking across, there's tribes you want to go to tribal more than others. And why would you leave it out there for them to copy so they can win immunity? You want them gone. Get rid of it. I had never understood why people don't hide or destroy their finished puzzle when they're done with it. There's no sense in keeping it up there so other people can look.
Yeah, so Andre is also asking, since you've watched Australia, I know it's a little bit off topic and Jake hasn't watched the latest season yet. What do you feel about it in regards to the individual immunity part of the game? Like, for instance, have you seen up to date on that, or am I spoiling it for you? I should have probably asked, but there was a scene where one player helped another player in an individual immunity challenge to try and beat another player in Australian
that was the
Survivor.
water. That was the water with the fire. I think that's fine.
Yep.
Listen, in Survivor, that's all within the rules. I always say if they want me to play Survivor with crayons, I'll play Survivor with crayons if that's in the rules. If it's in the rules that you can help another player and that's what you need to do to get ahead, then you can do it. I have no problem with it. And quite frankly, if they were doing it against me, I'd say that would give me confidence that they're that much afraid of me that they have to go to those lengths to try and get me out.
Yeah, and also, it gave that player a very great opportunity to beat them all and still come out with the immunity, which was really impressive to see. So, hats off to him.
Won that anyway.
Yeah. Lastly, I wanted to ask you, we spoke about this a little bit beforehand, but I know people on the internet really, this is a hot topic, and everybody's talking about a Survivor Worlds Collide. different countries going up against each other. You're one of the Survivor players that are now watching Australian Survivor. You've seen Survivor South Africa. There's more and more US players that I see getting involved into the international sort of thing out there. What's your thoughts on it? Do you think that this is something that they should do? Is it something that you'd be interested in if the call came out? I believe you'd play anyways. It doesn't matter the theme.
Right.
But...
I would play any Survivor that was offered to me because I love the game so much. And quite frankly, I feel like I have something to prove still. I feel that my game at the end wasn't as good as I thought I could have played it. I will be ready next time. But I think it would be epic to have an international game. American Survivor against Australia, against South Africa. I think it would be epic. I think they're different games. I think where it really, really get crazy is either if you tribe swap or you have at the merge when you have different cultures from different games colliding. How will King George fare against great American players in terms of will they target him as much? Will they let them hang out as much? And same thing with great American players. How will the Australian players feel if they're going against a Boston Rob or a Tyson or a Tony Vlahos? How would they feel? And what would they do? And what do they really think of them? That's when we really find out.
Yeah. I think it has to happen. I think that there's so many great characters now internationally that I would hope that it is on CBS so that the American audience can also get to experience it, because I know currently for people that are living in America, it's very hard to get episodes for Australia or for South Africa. You've got to jump through some hoops to get there. So it's like a very niche thing at the moment, but I would hope.
But it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. This last season's been crazy. So, but yeah, Mike, it's been great catching up with you about this latest episode. Who's your winner pick from here on out? Who do you back to win?
I love Danny. Yep. I think Danny's really, really good. But listen, I also love Yam Yam. Yam Yam's from Puerto Rico. I'm Puerto Rican, so I love Yam Yam. I love Danny's my winner pick. I also love, let me think, who else? I like Matthew. I got to tell you, I like Matthew a lot. So those are some of the players I really like. I like Carson, but I think Carson's getting Carson's playing the game a little too hard right now. He's got to take his foot off the gas a little bit. Let it come to him. He's good at it, but you got to let it come to him. He's making moves, in my opinion. He's making moves to make moves as opposed to play the game.
And also, I'm a little bit worried for him. My pre-season winner pick was Yam Yam, so I hope he does well this season as well. I just really love the energy that he's bringing to the show. We didn't even talk about the snoring and keeping Carolyn awake throughout the night. But
that's me with that's me with my girlfriend. I apparently, obviously, I can't hear myself, but apparently, I snore really bad at night. And every time she like wakes me up in the middle of the night, I'm like, I'm not even asleep. I'm awake. I'm awake. How can I be snoring if I'm awake? Yeah, it's just
so baby, you're hearing yourself.
Oh man, it's the things you wouldn't even think of that could get you voted out of Survivor. The whole sleeping arrangement thing is interesting to me as well, because we had that come out from Simon this week for Australian Survivor, where he said he's sleeping on the side of the camp. He's almost not even under the shelter because he's not in the main alliance. Does that become a thing out in Survivor US as well? Like, how does the sleeping arrangements work?
You know what somebody said a long time ago, and it's very true. You want to know who's in an alliance? Watch who sleeps next to each other. Yeah. That's how you know who's in an alliance, no matter what. And when I think back to where everybody slept in my season, that's exactly how it played out. Whoever was sleeping next to each other, because when you're laying there and you feel comfortable, you want to be next to the person you trust. And it's easy to just lean towards them and just whisper very lowly things you wanted them to know. So you want to know who's in an alliance? Watch who sleeps together.
Do you think it's going to become part of the strategy before you blindside somebody to sleep next to them so they can get a false sense of security and be like, no, there's no way they're voting me out. They slept next to me.
The funny thing is, though, once you kind of get a spot in Survivor, it's kind of becomes your spot, too. So you're going to hope you keep that alliance, because if you guys get pissed over it, you're still sleeping next to each other.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Mike, it's been great. If
Thank
you
you.
got to this point of the podcast and you're listening to this later on in the audio version or checking it out later, let us know your thoughts on the comment section below. What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? Consider subscribing to the channel. We're very well on our way to 2,000 subscribers now. I think we've just hit 1,700 on the channel, which is amazing. So please continue to support, show your support so we can get great guests like Mike on the show. We do have some future Survivor guests coming up. I can confirm that I've spoken to both Mike Gabler and also Nasir, who will both be on the podcast as well in the coming weeks. So I'm really excited to hear from both of them as well and get their thoughts on the game as well. The only thing we haven't gone into so far for this podcast, Jake, is our point system. And Mike, you can hang around if you want, but if you don't want to, you can jump off. It's 100% up to you. I know we've gone a lot longer than what I said we were going to be on, but we're just going to quickly look at our draft and who's in. So drop out if you want. And thank you so much for coming and chatting to us. We really appreciate it.
Guys, Chris, Jake, thank you so much. As always, I'm extremely humbled by all the support, all the notoriety. I appreciate it. It's a good day, man. Life is good.
Keep being you, Mike. You're a great person. You're so humble, so engaging with the fans. We love the fact that you're willing to come on here and talk Survivor. And I really hope you get another opportunity to play the game.
Thank you. If I get back on, I'll be coming back out to talk to you guys too.
Good.
Thank you so much. Talk to you later.
Have a great day, guys.
Nice
Thank
to meet
you so
you,
much
Mike.
again.
Bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right, there you have it. So Mike on the show, everyone. And it was such a great chat with Mike. But we've just got one more point of business here. We just got to go through our draft teams and have a look at how we're doing. This season, I'm really enjoying it, Jake, because we do have 3 teams. Kahuna obviously being in here as well. He's not on today because it's still the middle of the working day over here in Australia. But Kahuna is yet to lose a person in his tribe. You lost Claire, who was your second pick. So Kahuna has got six players in the team. The newcomer showing us up, Jake.
I guess I'm only good against you, Chris. Once somebody else is thrown in the mix, then I'm diminished by quite a bit.
Well, now you know my cunning plan. It's like I'm not going to make it easy on you for 2 weeks in a row or 2 seasons in a row.
Yeah,
but the points are still something, and I can tell you. Even though Kahuna's got the most players in the game, he doesn't have the most points in the game. So it's going to be very interesting to see where that plays out. So yeah, you're right. So
because I got an idol, Jamie got an idol.
Right. So Jamie didn't get an actual idol. Jamie didn't get an idol. So it's a fake
that's
idol.
true.
So that
Matt
doesn't
got
count.
the idol. That's what I meant. Matthew got the idol.
Matthew got an idol. Plus, your team is very Orange Tribe heavy. So they won outright in the immunity challenge.
Gosh, they're all orange.
They're all Orange Tribe. So you went all in on the Orange Tribe for this season. So it's either going to work out really well for you or not.
I was not thinking. I clearly was not thinking.
See, I try to be smart this time. Like normally you're the one who's got a really good spread of different people from different tribes. I try to be smart this time and doing it that way, but I somehow ended up with both people in the Showmances into my. Who could have predicted it?
You got unlucky by the 2 people that actually were on the same tribe happened to become in a Showmances together, man.
You couldn't script it. This is why these things are not scripted.
Exactly.
But you do lead this week. So I'm in 3rd place at 91.5 points. Kahuna is in 2nd place with 107 points, which gives you the lead by 10 points at 117. Wow. Your top player so far is Brandon at 30 points, followed closely by Matthew at 28 points, and then Lawrence got 25, and Jamie has only got 17 points for your team. Then on Kahuna's team, the people that have the most, or the person who's got the most, is Danny at 26, followed closely by Carolyn at 20, and the rest of his team is quite low on total points. Confessionals aren't necessarily the highest, but then on my tribe, we've got Matt with the highest points. At least he's giving me all those confessionals.
Yeah, Matt surprisingly has the most confessionals of the season. I was very shocked to see that.
Yeah, so 27 points in total for Matt, followed closely by Franny on 20. So they, I might be worried about them being in a Showmances, but they're kind of carrying my team right now at the moment, Jake.
Yeah, I think, man, I mean, before coming into this, I was thinking, I think they're screwed. Because I thought they kind of needed Claire on their side. It seemed like she was kind of the only one that wanted to vote out somebody else, but she actually was kind of the one bringing all the attention to them. And I'm not
Yeah.
sure if they're really going to be in that much trouble going forward.
Yeah.
So
Jerome here. Jerome in the live saying the irony of Kuna being absent while he's smashing it with his full team intact. He might be smashing it with a full team, but he's not winning with the points yet. That is Jake still. Well, I think this is the first time you've outright taken the lead. It ended up a draw first week between you two.
Yeah.
And then the second week you had Kahuna take the lead, and now you've taken the lead. So a very tight race, but you never know. Things could still, it's early. The game is still afoot, like a famous Survivor player once said before. Tarzan, yeah. So we do also have a few people here really excited about the fact that we've got the Ali Gabler coming on to the show. That's right. I've spoken to him a bit. He's been really cool to talk to. He's actually also watching Australian Survivor Heroes versus Villains currently.
Wow,
it seems like all of the US players are really getting into it, Jake. So you're the only one that's behind. You need to watch at some point. Clearly,
I am missing out. I think, my schedule is starting to
open up.
I think I might try to binge some episodes.
Yeah. Was there anything that you feel like we missed out on this episode? Something you wanted to bring up or talk about? Anybody in the live? Anything that you wanted us to talk about? I know we jumped back and forth quite a bit. I feel like we've smashed on most of the main things really here. The only other part that I can think of is the gross eating off the worms. That I think when you're out there, listen, I would just pretend it's chicken and just gobble down. But I know Amara said they could have a lot of diseases in them, and it's going to make me think twice now about eating worms if I was ever to play Survivor. Yeah.
Oh my.
Because I feel like Omar would know.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he would know of anybody. I don't think I'm going to mess with that then if I'm out there.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, cool. So I'm just starving. To death.
Just going to have to deal with it. There's nothing you can do. Yeah.
Yeah, free diet.
But
thank you, everybody.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, I think we covered everything. I don't think we missed anything.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody here in the live for taking part, asking great questions of Mike. We'll be back next week. Next week, we will have Angel Cake from the Angel Cake Entertainment channel as a guest on the channel. He's been on the channel many times before, normally talks about the challenge, but is also a big Survivor fan. He just doesn't get to talk about it a lot on his channel. So he'll be joining us next week to talk about the latest episode of Survivor. The week after that, at this point, we've got Peridium coming on. So there's 2 weeks of breaks that we don't have any actual Survivor players on, but we've got 2 great content creators coming on. And then after those 2, we will have both Gabler and Nasir come on, which I'm really excited to talk about both of those episodes with them as well. But also really excited to have both Angel Cake and Peridium, which is going to be amazing as well, because I've watched his videos for a long time, so it'd be really cool to pick his brains on Survivor and the actual episodes. But that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much for coming along. Grab your torches, head back to camp. We'll catch you guys